I drunkenly sent a heartbroken text to the wrong number, and it was the best mistake of my life. The message was supposed to disappear into the past. Into the quiet graveyard of unsent thoughts, deleted drafts, and feelings Jade had promised herself she'd buried months ago. But alcohol has a way of loosening ghosts. At 1:47 a.m., with the rain tapping softly against her flat's windows and a half-empty bottle of wine warming her veins, Jade lay sprawled across her sofa, phone glowing in her hand. Her heart felt heavier than it had all evening, heavier than the silence her ex had left behind. She typed without thinking. I still sleep on your side of the bed. I still reach for you when I wake up. I hate that I miss you more when I drink. Her thumb hovered. She didn't check the name. She didn't check the number. She hit send. A second passed. Then another. Then the horrible, gut-dropping realization slammed into her. The contact wasn't Emily. It was an unsaved number she'd copied earlier that week, something to do with a missed delivery, or a work call, or some meaningless adult responsibility. Jade bolted upright, blood rushing hot to her face. Oh my God, she whispered. She scrambled to unsend, but it was too late. Delivered. Her stomach twisted. She typed again, frantic now. I'm so sorry. Wrong number. Please ignore that. She tossed the phone aside as if it had burned her and pressed her palms to her eyes, groaning. Perfect. Just perfect. Drunk texting your ex was bad enough. Drunk confessing your heartbreak to a complete stranger? Rock bottom had a basement. She didn't expect a reply. She hoped there wouldn't be one. But the phone buzzed anyway. Once. Twice. Her heart began to pound. Slowly, like approaching a ticking bomb, she picked it up. A new message glowed on the screen. I probably shouldn't have read that. But, it felt real. Do you want to talk about her? Jade stared at the words, breath caught in her throat. Whoever this woman was, because somehow, instinctively, Jade knew it was a woman, she wasn't mocking her. She wasn't annoyed. She was kind. Jade's fingers trembled. I shouldn't, she typed. I'm drunk and emotional and embarrassing. The reply came almost instantly. Then we have something in common. I'm sober, but I'm awake for the same reason. Someone I can't forget. Jade swallowed hard. Rain streaked the windows like falling confessions. She sank back into the sofa, wine forgotten, pulse loud in her ears. She had texted the wrong number. But for the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. Jade told herself she wouldn't reply. She stared at the phone, watching the typing bubble appear, disappear, appear again. Each time it vanished, her chest tightened, like she'd missed catching someone's hand before they walked away. She exhaled slowly and typed. Her name was Emily. We were together for 4 years. She left like it was already decided, like she'd been halfway gone for months and I just hadn't noticed. There. Too much already. She waited. The rain outside softened into a steady hush, the kind that made the city feel distant and unreal. Her phone buzzed. That's the worst kind of goodbye, the stranger replied. The quiet ones. The ones where you're the only one grieving. Jade swallowed. She hadn't told anyone that part. Not her friends, not her sister. They all thought the breakup had been mutual, clean, mature. Easier that way. What about you? Jade typed. You said you're awake for the same reason. The pause this time was longer. Long enough for Jade to worry she'd crossed a line. Then. Her name is Claire. She's married. And I never meant to fall in love with her. Jade's heart thudded. She didn't know this woman. Didn't know her age, her face, her voice. But something in that confession felt heavy, like it had been waiting for a place to land. That sounds complicated, Jade wrote gently. It is, the stranger replied. But feelings don't ask permission, do they? Jade laughed softly to herself, a sad little sound. No, she typed. They really don't. Minutes passed. Then more. The wine haze faded into something quieter, clearer. Jade curled her legs beneath her, phone warm in her hands. I'm Jade, she sent. By the way. Since we're confessing things to people we weren't meant to meet. The reply came with a smile she could somehow feel through the screen. I'm Rowan. And I'm oddly grateful you sent that message to the wrong person. Jade paused. Me too, she admitted. Even if I'm mortified. Mortified passes, Rowan replied. Connection doesn't always. The word lingered. Connection. Jade's breath caught, surprised by how deeply it landed. They talked until the rain stopped. About music they used to love with the wrong people. About how loneliness felt louder at night. About the strange relief of being honest with someone who didn't know your history, someone who couldn't use it against you. Rowan never flirted. Not once. And somehow, that made everything feel more intimate. At 3:12 a.m., Jade's eyelids finally grew heavy. I should sleep, she typed. Before I embarrass myself further. Sleep, Rowan replied. And Jade? Yes. If you wake up tomorrow and regret this. I'll understand. Jade smiled faintly, heart aching in a way that wasn't painful, just alive. I don't think I will, she sent. Good night, Rowan. The phone went quiet. But Jade lay awake long after, staring at the ceiling, wondering how a message meant for the past had somehow opened a door into something entirely new. And somewhere across the city, or maybe across the country, Rowan stared at her own darkened screen, thinking the same impossible thought. Wrong number. Right moment. Morning arrived without mercy. Sunlight crept through the thin curtains, too bright, too honest, nothing like the forgiving shadows of last night. Jade groaned softly and rolled onto her side, one hand groping for her phone before her eyes were even open. For a split second, she hoped it had all been a drunken blur. Then she saw the messages. Her chest tightened, not with regret, but with something quieter and more unsettling. Anticipation. No new notifications. Of course not. It was morning. Real life had rules. People woke up, went to work, answered emails, became the versions of themselves that fit into daylight. Jade showered, dressed, and made coffee she barely tasted. All the while, her mind replayed Rowan's words. Connection doesn't always. She shook her head at herself. It was ridiculous to feel anything over a stranger. A woman whose last name she didn't know. A woman who loved someone unavailable. And yet. Her phone buzzed just as she stepped onto the pavement outside her flat. She stopped walking. Good morning, Jade. I hope you didn't regret the honesty. Jade's lips curved before she could stop them. I didn't, she typed back. I was worried you might. The reply came while she waited at the crossing. I thought about not texting, Rowan admitted. Daylight makes things feel reckless. Jade looked up at the sky, soft blue, deceptively calm. But 3 dots appeared. But some things are worth a little recklessness. Jade's pulse skipped. They texted in fragments throughout the day, between meetings, during coffee breaks, in stolen moments that felt oddly precious. Rowan had a dry wit, a way of asking questions that made Jade feel seen without being examined. What do you do when you miss her the most? Rowan asked. Jade considered. I drive with the windows down, she replied. Loud music. It helps me pretend I'm not thinking. What do you listen to? Old love songs that hurt. A pause. I like you already, Rowan sent. Jade laughed out loud, earning a curious glance from a stranger on the bus. That makes one of us brave, she replied. Rowan sent back a single line. I'm not brave. I'm just tired of pretending I don't feel things. The words followed Jade all afternoon. By early evening, something shifted. The easy rhythm slowed. Rowan's replies came later, more carefully phrased. Finally, Jade typed the question she'd been circling all day. You said Claire is married. Are you still talking to her? The pause this time felt heavier. Long enough for doubt to creep in. Then. Yes, Rowan replied. And that's the part one should have told you sooner. Jade's stomach tightened, not with jealousy, exactly, but with awareness. Reality, asserting itself. I didn't mean to complicate your life, Rowan continued. Last night just slipped out. Jade sat on the edge of her bed, phone pressed to her palm. I didn't ask for simple, she typed slowly. I just don't want to be someone's distraction. Another pause. Then the truth, quiet but unmistakable. You aren't, Rowan wrote. You're a reminder that I still want more than half choices. Jade closed her eyes. She didn't know what that meant for them. Didn't know where this was going, or if it should go anywhere at all. But she knew one thing. She didn't want Rowan to disappear. Outside, the city hummed into evening. Inside, Jade felt herself standing at the edge of something unnamed, something that felt like hope, and fear, and possibility all tangled together. And for the first time since Emily left, she didn't turn away. Jade didn't mean to suggest it. The idea slipped out between messages, casual and fragile all at once. Do you ever wonder what the other person sounds like? The typing bubble appeared, vanished, returned. All the time, Rowan replied. But wondering feels safer than knowing. Jade understood that more than she wanted to admit. Knowing changed things. Made them harder to put back where they belonged. Still. We could keep it short, Jade typed. Just voices. Nothing else. The pause stretched. Jade stared at the ceiling, counting the faint cracks like constellations. Then her phone rang. Not a text. A call. Her breath caught. She hesitated, just a second, before answering. Hi, she said, Jade. Rowan's voice was low, warm, carrying a steadiness that sent a slow shiver through Jade's chest. It wasn't dramatic or polished. It was real. Like someone speaking honestly because there was no reason not to. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Jade laughed, breathy. You're real. Rowan smiled, Jade could hear it. I was thinking the same thing about you. They talked about nothing at first. The weather. The city noise in the background. How strange it felt to attach sound to words that had already meant so much. Rowan's voice held quiet intelligence, but also weariness, like someone who had spent too long being careful. So, Rowan said eventually, are you less mortified now? Jade smiled. A little. Mostly I'm just glad. There was a pause. Not uncomfortable. Intent. I should tell you something, Rowan said gently. Jade's fingers curled into the blanket. Okay. I'm older than you, Rowan continued. Not dramatically. But enough that people notice. Jade exhaled, surprised by how little it mattered. I don't mind older, she said. I mind unavailable. Another silence. Heavier this time. I'm trying not to be, Rowan admitted. That's the truth I don't say out loud very often. Jade lay back, staring at the dim ceiling, heart aching in a way that felt almost tender. Then maybe this, she said slowly, is you practicing honesty. Rowan laughed softly. You make it sound noble. I think it is, Jade replied. The conversation drifted deeper. Memories slipped through. Regrets named but not dramatized. Jade told Rowan about the night Emily left, how quiet it had been, how final. Rowan listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't rush to fix it. When Jade finished, Rowan spoke so quietly Jade had to lean closer to the phone. You deserve to be chosen, Rowan said. Every day. Not just when it was convenient. Jade's throat tightened. No one had said that before. Not like that. They stayed on the phone long after the city outside went still. When they finally hung up, it felt less like an ending and more like a promise neither of them dared name. As the call disconnected, Jade pressed the phone to her chest, heart steady and full in a way it hadn't been in months. Words had been enough. But now there was a voice. And voices lingered. Jade told herself the call hadn't changed anything. That was the lie she practiced in the mirror while brushing her teeth, while tying her shoes, while pretending her heart wasn't still tuned to the sound of Rowan's voice. They didn't text that night. Or the next morning. The absence sat between them like an unspoken agreement, space, responsibility, restraint. It lasted until 11:06 p.m. "Are you awake?" Rowan wrote. Jade stared at the message, pulse quickening. "I am now." A pause. "I almost didn't send that," Rowan admitted. "It feels like crossing something." Jade sat up in bed, the room dim and quiet. "Lines only matter if we agree they do," she replied. "What line are you afraid of?" 3 dots. "Gone. Returned. The one where I start wanting things I can't justify." Jade's chest tightened, not with fear, but recognition. "What do you want?" she asked. Silence stretched long enough to feel deliberate. Then. "You." The word landed softly, devastating in its simplicity. Jade closed her eyes. "I don't want to be your escape," she typed. "I want to be chosen." The reply came slower this time. "I know. That's why I'm afraid. Because wanting you means letting go of what's already breaking," Rowan added. "And I haven't done that yet." Jade pressed her phone to her forehead. Honesty hurt, but it didn't wound the way half-truths did. "Then maybe this is where we stop," Jade said carefully. "Before it becomes something that only exists in the dark." The words shook as she sent them. She waited. Heart pounding. "Or," Rowan replied. "Maybe this is where I finally stop pretending I don't want more." Jade's breath caught. "I'm not asking you to choose tonight," Rowan continued. "I'm asking you not to disappear while I find the courage." Jade stared at the screen, weighing the risk. Finally, she typed the truth. "I can stay. But I won't shrink myself to fit someone else's hesitation." Rowan answered almost immediately. "I wouldn't ask you to." Outside, a siren wailed and faded. Inside, something fragile but fierce took shape, an understanding neither of them fully trusted, yet both refused to abandon. They didn't say "I love you." They didn't make promises. But when Jade set her phone down, her hands were trembling, not from uncertainty, but from knowing the line had been seen. And chosen. Not crossed. Not yet. Almost became their language. Almost calling. Almost saying more than they should. Almost admitting that what lived between them had started to feel like gravity. Days blurred into nights, threaded together by messages that arrived just late enough to be missed and just early enough to matter. Jade learned the rhythm of Rowan's silences, the ones filled with thought, not distance. Rowan learned when Jade was pretending she was fine. They never named what they were doing. They didn't need to. One evening, after a particularly long day, Jade sent a message she erased twice before finally letting it exist. "If I were braver," she wrote, "I'd ask you to come over and sit on my sofa and say nothing with me." The typing bubble appeared instantly. Then stopped. Then appeared again. "If I were braver," Rowan replied, "I'd already be on my way." Jade's chest ached. "What stops you?" The answer came like a confession whispered into the dark. "Because if I sit beside you," Rowan wrote, "I won't be able to pretend I'm still divided." Jade closed her eyes, imagining it anyway, the weight of Rowan's presence, the quiet intimacy of shared space, the way her voice would sound unfiltered by distance. "I don't want half of you," Jade typed. Even if half would hurt less than nothing. A pause. Then. Half hurts more, Rowan said. Because it teaches you how much you're missing. That night, they talked on the phone again. No flirting. No promises. Just breathing, laughter, shared pauses that felt heavier than words. At one point, Rowan spoke so softly Jade almost missed it. Do you think timing can ruin something real? Rowan asked. Jade swallowed. I think timing reveals how willing people are to fight for it. Silence stretched. Then Rowan laughed, quiet and sad. You're dangerous, Jade. Only to people who are honest, Jade replied. Another silence, different this time. Closer. I almost kissed you, Rowan admitted suddenly. Jade's heart lurched. When? In my head, Rowan said. More than once. Jade smiled through the ache. Was it good? Rowan exhaled. Too good. That's the problem. They ended the call without saying goodbye properly, like people who didn't trust themselves with endings. Jade lay awake long after, staring at the ceiling, her body heavy with longing that had nowhere to go. Almost touching. Almost choosing. Almost brave enough. Almost was not nothing. But it wasn't enough. And somewhere in the quiet, Jade realized the truth she'd been avoiding. If Rowan didn't choose soon, almost would become goodbye. Silence didn't arrive all at once. It slipped in quietly, between unread messages, delayed replies, pauses that grew longer than explanations. Jade noticed it the way you notice a room cooling, slowly, and then all at once. The first night, Rowan didn't say goodnight. Jade told herself it meant nothing. The second day, there was no "Are you okay?" No dry humor. No soft check-in that had become routine. Jade stopped reaching out by the third. She refused to be the one pressing against a door that was closing. Days passed. The world kept moving, work deadlines, grocery lists, strangers on buses, but Jade felt suspended inside something unfinished. She checked her phone less often, then more often, then not at all. Each time it buzzed, her chest tightened before relaxing in disappointment. She replayed their last conversation over and over. Almost as its own kind of pain. She hadn't known how prophetic it was. On the fourth night, Jade sat on her sofa with the lights off, city glow spilling through the windows. Her phone lay face down on the table. She didn't flip it over. She already knew. Silence wasn't confusion. Silence was an answer. Not cruel. Not dramatic. Just, chosen. She thought of Emily then, how she'd left in the same quiet way, packing her things while Jade was at work, leaving a note that said "I'm sorry" like it could fill the absence. Different woman. Same ending. Jade stood and walked to the window, pressing her forehead against the cool glass. She didn't cry. That hurt more than tears would have. That night, she typed a message she didn't send. I would have waited. I just needed to know you were walking toward me. She deleted it. Choosing herself felt lonelier than she expected. But it felt cleaner too. On the sixth day, Rowan finally texted. I'm sorry for disappearing. Jade read it once. Then again. She didn't respond right away. When she did, her words were careful, steady. I understand why you went quiet. I just can't live inside that kind of waiting. The reply took longer than she expected. When it came, it was honest and devastating. I wasn't strong enough, Rowan wrote. And you deserved someone who wouldn't hesitate. Jade closed her eyes. There it was. The truth, laid bare. I hope you find the courage you're looking for, Jade replied. I really do. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then nothing. Jade set the phone down gently, like it might break if she didn't. Outside, the city breathed. Inside, something settled, not peace exactly, but acceptance. Silence had spoken. And Jade had finally listened. Time did what it always did. It moved. Not dramatically. Not kindly. Just forward, pulling Jade along with it whether she felt ready or not. Weeks passed. Then months. Rowan became a quiet thought rather than a constant presence. The ache dulled into something manageable, like a scar you stop touching once it heals enough not to throb. Jade rebuilt small things. Morning routines. Evening walks. A life that didn't wait for a phone to light up. She even laughed again, real laughter, not the careful kind. And then, one ordinary afternoon, the door opened. It was a message. The reply came without hesitation. I wouldn't ask you to. I want to meet who you are now. Jade looked out the window. The city felt different than it had months ago, brighter, sharper, alive with possibility. Then we start slow, she said. No secrets. No almost. No almost, Rowan agreed. A pause. Then. Can I hear your voice again? Jade smiled, small, cautious, real. Yes, she replied. But this time, stay. The phone rang. Jade answered. Hi, she said. Rowan's voice was steadier than before. Clearer. Hi, Jade. Thank you for opening the door. Jade leaned back, letting the moment exist without rushing it. Knock first next time, she said gently. Rowan laughed, soft, full. I will. The door hadn't opened because Jade waited. It opened because both of them finally arrived. Trust did not arrive with the first kiss. That surprised Jade. The kiss had been gentle, unhurried, something chosen, not taken, but trust was quieter than that. It came later, in moments that didn't look like romance from the outside. It came when Rowan showed up when she said she would. 5 minutes early, she no longer counted the inches. She crossed them. Because trust, when tended carefully, eventually becomes a step. Then a stride. Then a life that doesn't need guarding every moment. Rowan kissed Jade's temple and whispered, I'm here. And for the first time, Jade believed it without bracing herself for the loss. Trust, she learned, was not loud. It was consistent. It stayed. The city didn't pause for them, but they learned how to live in it anyway. Mornings began with soft routines. Jade made coffee while Rowan washed the dishes, sometimes humming along to the same playlist they'd discovered together. Evenings stretched lazily on the sofa, legs tangled, voices low, laughter occasional and easy. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It didn't need to be. It was quiet. And for them, quiet had its own kind of magic. They traveled slowly through life, weekends by the coast, early mornings at local markets, the occasional museum trip where Rowan would point out details Jade never noticed. In this quiet rhythm, trust deepened. Jade learned that Rowan didn't rush intimacy. She didn't cling. She showed up, simply and consistently, like the sunrise. Rowan learned that Jade didn't need to be fixed. She needed presence. Patience. Space to be seen as she truly was. Almost a year later, they found themselves in a small apartment overlooking the river. Sunlight fell across the wooden floor, soft and golden. Jade cooked breakfast while Rowan set the table. I used to think love had to be loud to be real, Jade said, flipping an omelet. Rowan leaned against the counter, coffee in hand. I used to think it had to be dramatic. They laughed. And now? Jade asked. Now, Rowan said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind Jade's ear, it grows quietly. And it grows better for it. It wasn't a story of instant gratification or fate's grand gestures. It was a story of patience, of inches crossed carefully, of being present. That night, they walked along the river, hand in hand. The city hummed softly around them, indifferent yet protective. Jade rested her head on Rowan's shoulder. I'm glad I sent that message, she whispered. Rowan kissed the top of her head. So am I, wrong number. Right time. And as they walked, the quiet life they had built together felt like its own kind of triumph, unnoticed by the world, but everything to them. The past existed, yes, but it no longer dictated the present. Because some doors open slowly. And some hearts, when trusted carefully, stay open for a lifetime. Jade sat at her desk, a cup of tea cooling beside her, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Her phone lay nearby, silent. She thought of the night it all began. The wine. The rain. The message meant for someone else that had landed in Rowan's hands. A mistake. A wrong number. And yet, somehow, it had rewritten her life. Rowan walked in, carrying 2 mugs. The soft clink of porcelain was the kind of sound that anchored Jade to the present. Missed me? Rowan asked, smiling. Jade shook her head, smiling back. You never left. They sat together, side by side, hands brushing, shoulders leaning. No words were necessary. The city hummed outside the window, indifferent and persistent. And yet, inside, everything felt deliberate. Deliberate and true. Jade's phone buzzed, an unknown number. For a moment, her chest tightened. Then she laughed softly. Wrong number? Rowan asked. Not this time, Jade said, slipping the phone back into her pocket. Some messages are meant to be found. Rowan's hand found hers. Fingers intertwined. They didn't need to speak. They didn't need to explain. Because the message that had started everything, the accidental confession, the drunken truth, had become something more than chance. It had become a life built quietly, patiently, with love measured in inches. And in that quiet, careful life, Jade and Rowan finally understood, sometimes the wrong number is just the right beginning. The phone sat forgotten. The past stayed where it belonged. The door had opened. And this time, it stayed open.